Still on board Diamond Princess in the Bay of Yokohama, Japan. Now, as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit dark. The sun is just starting to go down, and it's, let me give you the correct time, it's 20 to 4 in the afternoon on Tuesday, the 4th of February 2020. So I thought I'd give you an update on the information because we've got some new information that's come to light. Now, let me just give you a bit of the background to what has happened. We left this bay of Yokohama about 15 days ago, something like that, 15 days ago. And we traveled to another port in Japan, a couple other ports in Japan. Then we left the country and went into Vietnam, and left Vietnam and went to another country, Taiwan. Once we had left Taiwan, and I should say the cruise has been fantastic. Would I do it again? Absolutely yes. It's been a brilliant cruise, fabulous itinerary. The ship has been really good. The staff are so well trained. It's been a real pleasure to be on board. But of course the atmosphere has changed over the last 24 hours or so, which I'll talk about in a moment. But when we left Vietnam and Taiwan, the next port we came to was Okinawa in Japan. Now this meant we had to re-enter Japan as a country and go through an immigration procedure. But before we could go through that, we had to go through a quarantine. So what you're reading and hearing and observing on the news about the ship being quarantined, this is the second occasion it has taken place. So in Yokohama a few days ago, we were in quarantine. All the tour excursions were cancelled there, but we were given a health clearance and the immigration papers to come back into Japan. It took best part of a day. It was a lengthy process, and we then sailed here. Of course, the outbreak of the coronavirus became more prominent worldwide. That had an ongoing effect because it was then discovered one of the passengers on this ship who disembarked in Hong Kong. He'd been on board here for a week and he felt ill when he was in Hong Kong, was checked, and lo and behold, he was found to have the coronavirus. Now, can you hear the helicopter still going ahead? It has been all day long. We have had news footage. I don't know why they're giving this such coverage, but they really are. We are having a lot of helicopters, TV news channels flying over. So I hope that you can still hear this. I don't want to go inside the cabin because my wife, neither of us got much sleep last night. We had to stay reasonably awake to wait for the medical officers to come and give us the health checks and so on. So we're a wee bit tired today, so I don't want to go in and disturb her with this. So anyway, this guy, 80-year-old gentleman, he's been found to have the virus. So that put the ship into a different situation, and this is why it was decided the ship would be quarantined here. The captain made the decision to come back to Yokohama early to speed up the whole process of going through the health procedure to gain the clearance for us. All well and good. Now, it was declared at midnight last night, on the Monday evening at midnight, that the officers had boarded the ship. And remember, we are not dockside, we are in the middle of the bay, anchored, so nobody can get on or get off the ship. But if you can see behind me, we've got a Coast Guard down there, and they are all around us all day long, protecting us, I guess. But let me get back to the important part of the story. So at midnight last night, we were advised that we would be visited, didn't know what hour, but the medical people would be working their way from the top of the ship down to the bottom, 14 decks. Well, we waited and waited and waited, and we did fall asleep, and when we woke up at 6:30 this morning, we wondered whether we'd actually missed that knocking on the door because we'd been asleep, but we hadn't. Nothing had been... Oh, it looks like they're bringing some supplies on board. Can you see this? I'm not sure what it is, but it certainly looks as if they're going to be bringing something on board. Do you realise this is live coverage as it happens, folks? You're seeing it closer than a TV, but there we are. So we did get our medical inspection much later on in the day today. I didn't make a note of the time. I think it was around about 12 noon, something like that. Now, when we had this medical inspection, it was really, really fast. They were in and out of our cabin in 45 seconds, having checked me and my wife. It was little meter in the ear to measure our temperature, and it was interesting that that same little nozzle went into my wife's ear. They didn't clean it or put a new nozzle on, and I guess that nozzle has gone right the way through. But these are medical people, so they know what they're doing. We can't catch anything, of course we can't. This is sarcasm at its best, by the way, everybody. And they asked us 3 questions: whether we have a cough, whether we have a fever, whether we are taking any tablets that are made to reduce temperature. And of course the answers were no, and they were gone from our room, having checked my wife and myself in 45 seconds. Now, that was a few hours ago. The very latest information is in the last captain's announcement, and this is what you're not going to see on the news channels, I don't think. But in the latest announcement from the captain, which was just on an hour and a half ago, he made the comment that once every passenger had been seen and temperatures taken, that the results would be then taken to the mainland in Yokohama, where they would be tested. Now, how do you test temperatures that have been printed out and the questionnaires that we filled in and the questions? What testing is in that? And the captain also said it will take 5 hours before the results of those tests are made known. So, being a little bit inquisitive, I want to know what on earth it is that they are going to be testing. And this is what has been determined. There are 10 passengers apparently on board who are quarantined to their cabins who have a fever. Now, of course, it's not determined that they've got this coronavirus. It might just be the flu or a bad cold, but they have a fever. Now, it's interesting that the 80-year-old man who left the ship in Hong Kong, he had no symptoms. You know, he'd gone through health procedures, he'd gone through a temperature check and so on. And it wasn't until he was off the ship that he developed the symptoms, went to hospital, and that's when it all came out. So there are 10 passengers isolated to their cabins, and we are now going to be awaiting the results. I believe it will be those results that the captain was referring to, although he didn't make that clear at all. So that's the latest news that I have. I don't know where... I'm going to point the camera straight down, hope it doesn't fall off and land in the sea, but just have a look. Don't know what they're doing, haven't a clue, but somebody's certainly boarded and brought something with them. So those results are going to be made known after 5 hours once they have got to mainland. The thing is, the medical officers are still doing their work. There are 2 decks still to be done. They reckon it'll be another 2 to 3 hours before all of the passengers have been checked. So that'll take us on to something like 7 o'clock this evening. Then it'll be 5 hours to get the results back. That'll be midnight. So there is no way any passenger is getting off the ship today. So what do we do about ongoing flights? Well, our flight back to the UK took place 4 hours ago, and clearly we weren't on it. We can't make arrangements for a new flight because we don't know whether we're going to be cleared. So the next realistically valuable announcement is going to be midnight or shortly after. That's when we'll know what is going to be happening and what will be allowed to happen to us. So I hope you found this interesting. Unless something drastic happens, I won't be making another video until we know what the situation is concerning us and all the other passengers. What's it like on board? It's a little bit strange, quieter atmosphere. There are not many people in the public areas. A lot of the passengers are staying in their cabins out of choice. Meal times, we do use the dining room. The captain and the staff are very particular about regular announcements of personal hygiene, washing our hands in good hot soapy water, which is really, really good. Oh, interesting, I had intended, and I forgot to do this, I had intended to put the face mask on. Now, we had to sign in Yokohama that we would agree to wear a face mask in all public places. So, you know, where do you get a face mask when you're stuck on the ship? We were in quarantine in Yokohama. So I went down to the ship's medical center, and they kindly gave us a number of masks. And I was told they're going to do you no good whatsoever. If you happen to have your mouth open, they will prevent something from flying into your mouth, but with regard to catching something, they're not going to be adequate. So the majority of the people are not wearing masks, and that includes all of the ship staff and the ship's medical team, including the doctor. He said to me face to face, you'll never see me wearing the mask. I walk all around Hong Kong when I was there, and I don't wear the mask because unless it's a really tight fitting mask, it's not going to be sufficient to combat something like the coronavirus. Okay, there we go. We've got another helicopter overhead. I tell you, I feel quite famous, but it's very strange because we are literally stranded in the ocean. But most people are of a reasonable spirit. Some are really moody about it. Got to be careful how I say that, but I'm sure you know what I mean. But you just have to make the best of the situation, don't you? And yeah, make the best of the situation. So I'll catch you all later, give you an update when I've got one. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, have a brilliant day. Bye for now.